Hey, what's up guys? It's Becca. And yeah, Valentine's Day is almost here. What better time than to bake for the one that you love, or the ones that you love, depending on how many dogs you have. I'm going to teach you how to make my special apple ginger cake with raspberry cream cheese frosting. It has way too long of a name. So if you can come up with something cute to name this cake, that would be awesome. So I'm going to show you the tools that you're going to need and the ingredients you're going to need to bake this cake. First, you're going to need, let's see, a big mixing bowl and a little mixing bowl. You're going to need a grater. If you're lazy like me, you can just chop with your knife if you don't have a grater. You're going to need a measuring cup that has 1 cup and ½ cup markings. A 1 tablespoon scooper thingy. Gonna need a knife, spoon, and fork. And actually a real knife, a cutting board, and then we're gonna need a blender. A blender, yes. Or a food processor, or something that purees, chops, something, right? And then lastly, you're going to need some sort of pan to bake. I have 2 glass pans out here because I'm going to make my cake a layered cake. There are many different possibilities in cake sizes and stuff, so whatever cake pan you happen to have, just use that. And we can adjust your baking times accordingly. The ingredients you're going to need are 3 cups of whole wheat flour, 1 tablespoon of baking powder. You're going to need a dash of cinnamon, and I use nonstick canola spray for my pans. You can also flour your pans, I bet. Oh, it's an apple ginger cake, so you're going to need 1 tablespoon of ginger, and you're going to need 2 large apples. Now, these are organic Brayburns. I chose these because they have a little bit of a tartness to it, as well as a sweetness. The dogs don't care what kind of apples you pick. Trust me. You're going to need 2 eggs, which I didn't pull out because if I get them out right now, I will drop one on the floor. You're going to need 2 tablespoons of butter, and mine's been softening for a minute, so it's going to be easy to slice off a chunk. And you're going to need ½ cup of water. And then for the topping, you're going to need, I am lazy and I got the whipped cream cheese because it's already whipped. And then I got raspberries. Now you can use regular cream cheese. It's going to work just as good, but you're going to have to like play with it a little bit more. So the whipped cream cheese is a little bit easier to use. So, where do we start? First, you'll need to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Next, we're going to get all of our dry ingredients into our large mixing bowl. And the reason why we have a spoon is not only to stir, but to spoon your flour into your measuring cup. It's the best way to measure flour because it settles funny, you know? So we need 3 cups of whole wheat flour. Atop the flour, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of baking powder. And we're also going to toss in a dash of some cinnamon. There, that's good. And we're just going to blend those dry ingredients together. Spread that baking powder around, spread that cinnamon around. Now we're going to take our apples and we're going to cut them into, I don't know, maybe ½ cubes. The seeds and the core we do not want at all in our cake. I've heard something bad about apple seeds being toxic to dogs. I don't know this for sure, but it's a good idea if you're feeding a cake to your dogs that you don't put anything toxic in it. Now I like to take an apple take an apple and cut off the sides, and then I'm left with the core. And then you can just cut off the ends and you've got a nice squared off core. I did get a little bit of a seed in this one, so I'm just going to pop that out. And then it's very easy to just cut these up into small bite-sized pieces. And again for the second apple. Okay, now that we've got that taken care of, we're going to wash up our ginger, which I've already done, and we're just going to grate this right into the pile of apples, right onto the cutting board. You could peel your ginger. I'm lazy. You could also mince it with a knife. I'm lazy. Yeah, I'm a lazy cook. I'm cooking for dogs here. Yeah, it's people grade, but it is for dogs. So I am allowed to be a little bit lazy. Here comes the fun part where we get to use the blender, right? So we're going to take our half cup of water and our 2 eggs and we're going to put them in the blender. Always use cage-free eggs, guys, and brown eggs are good for you too. Whenever you're using a blender though, always put your wet ingredients in your liquid ingredients before you put any sort of solid or dry ingredients. It's just good practice. On top of that, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of butter. Use unsalted butter. You really don't want to be giving your dogs salt. Not a good idea. Oh, it's softened so it's nice and slippery. And then we're going to also toss in our chopped apples and our grated ginger. And then here comes the really fun part, is blasting it. You might need to stir it halfway, but you definitely want all your apple to be nice and pureed. You want it to be a nice, thick liquid. And then we're going to pour this directly in on top of our dry ingredients. It's nice and kind of gross. You hear it? Blah, 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 blah. Alright. When you're done mixing, you should have a wet, but not, not chunky dough. It should be nice and consistent. Not one that you would just knead with your hands, because it's a little bit wetter than that, but it's still kind of plumpy. And I'm going to take my canola spray and line my pans, and then I'll divide this in half and put it in the pans. Bake it up. Now if you notice, this recipe is very easy to have. And what I've done is I've taken it and halved it and put it in 2 different cake pans. If you do that to make a layered cake, bake it at 350 for about 15 to 20 minutes. Somewhere around 18 minutes is probably sufficient. Now this dough is a little bit pliable. You can get your hands wet and shape it and sculpt it. So if you want to grab a big cookie sheet, spray some canola oil spray on there and make the dough into a heart shape, or make some small little heart-shaped cakes all in a row, feel free. Be as creative with this recipe as you want. I mean, that's the whole point. This is just the way that I'm doing it. So, yeah, we're going to put that in our oven at 350 degrees and come back in about 15 minutes and pull open that oven, see how we're doing. Okay, so I totally lied to you about how long they were going to take to bake, but whatever. You wouldn't have taken them out of the oven anyway if they weren't done. So maybe it was because I was using a glass pan, but mine took about 25 minutes to fully bake. So while we're letting those cool, we still have 3 tools to use. Our mixing bowl, small mixing bowl, our fork, and our knife. Our knife is actually to spread the icing. So that's just going to go off to the side. Now in our mixing bowl, we're going to take and put about 8 small, or maybe about 10 small or 8 regular sized raspberries. I've got kind of smaller ones this time, I don't know. And we're going to take the fork and we're just going to mash the crap out of these. We're just going to mash them and mash them and mash them and mash them and mash them until they're completely annihilated. It's kind of fun. And then once we're done with that, we're going to add about, I don't know, 3/4 of a cup of the whipped cream cheese. I guess if you are using regular cream cheese, you'd want a little bit less. But see how I got this raspberry puree? It smells really good. I know I'm wrinkling up my nose, but it smells awesome. This is how our stuff is going to be pink, and it's going to be all Valentine's Day style. See how it's turning pink? And now we have pink icing, which makes it nice and Valentine's Day. Now, when you put the icing on, you can also use some of your leftover raspberries to maybe draw a heart on your cake, or maybe spell out your dog's name. Now, because this is cake and it has icing, I highly recommend that you take this cake and kind of cut it up into bites for your dog. And I highly, highly, highly recommend that you feed it to them either outdoors or on a hard floor, where in case if they drop it, you know, you don't get pink icing on your carpet. Here we are, one sweet cake for my sweeties on Valentine's Day. No, it's what is it again? An apple ginger cake with raspberry cream cheese frosting. Way too much of a mouthful. If you can come up with a better name for my dog cake, let me know. Leave it in the comments below. And yeah, let me know if you bake this cake, and let me know if your dogs love it, because my dogs are just sitting here waiting for me to slice into this. Peace, guys. Happy Valentine's Day. I hear hungry dogs pacing.